Good morning, and it is the morning after the night before. We're in Essen, just a few miles from Gelsenkirchen, where England won 1-0 last night to go top of the very early group here at Euro 2024. Myself, Stuart Pierce, Jim Proudfoot, we're all at the game. And Stuart, let's start by saying it's a win, and in tournament football, a win is everything, isn't it?
It certainly is, and it'll calm the nerves, that is for sure. Also as well, question mark going into the game, can we keep clean sheets? Well, we kept one of those as well. So there's a couple of pluses to it. For me, we probably in the first half, we didn't push our ascendancy well enough. And I think if we would have got the second goal, I think we should have run the game out 3-0. But listen, you take 3 points.
It's interesting, Jim, because in commentary, Stuart was saying there, make changes or push the ascendancy. In commentary, he said that before the half-hour mark, bringing on somebody like Eberici Eze could have made a massive difference. England could have gone 2, maybe 3-0 up just by making that early change. And I don't know about you, I was listening to it and I was very shocked.
Yeah, because it's something that you just don't think about happening. It's not part of the way that football games develop at the moment, that substitutions, particularly tactical ones, are made that early, certainly never before half-time. Even if a team is doing really badly, the manager tends to wait till half-time and he might make 2 or 3 changes. And I think what Stuart was saying is absolutely right. Why is that? Why, if you can see that something is developing as it is, why are you wasting minutes, a big proportion of your game, in not stamping home the ascendancy or not doing something to try and get on the front foot? Particularly, I guess, if you're 1-0 up, because it looks as though it's just, I don't know, either a manager saying that it's a mistake that he's made, an acknowledgement of an error, or it's the potential psychological damage that it would do to a player. If he'd withdrawn Phil Foden 25 minutes, 30 minutes into that game, what does it do to him going forward? And that's the issue. And I suppose from a manager's point of view, he needs to get everybody on side before he does something like that. It might be a cosmetic question of what does it look like, but I think it should happen. It's probably the next adventurous step and tactical change that we might see in the game.
Yeah, I don't think it was to the detriment of the player that would have come off. I just felt at the time, watching the game needed another player on the left-hand side to offer more natural balance on the width and more of an attacking threat running at the fullback. I think it would have paid dividends. It did on the right-hand side with Saka. I'd like to have seen him done it a little bit more. I think on the left-hand side, to have 2 double threats either side, we could have switched play and it would have caused them a lot of problems, and I think it would have opened them up readily.
I think that no change was made, obviously, and I think that Serbia kind of took control in the second half, which was a big concern. They had a big chance that really they should have taken after Tadic came on.
Yeah, and they take Mitrovic off by that stage, and it was played forward towards Luka Jovic. Tadic, probably just about the only Serbian player that had that ability to play a defence-splitting ball, and Jovic couldn't get it out from between his feet. Had Mitrovic still been on, might have been different, might have been 1-1, and Serbia, I think, would feel that they would have deserved an equaliser at that stage. So many times over the last 20 years, you've watched England and 1-0 has been a dangerous scoreline, just hasn't brought the best out of the way that England play. I thought, to an extent, England had got that out of their system, but having seen that last night, it just felt as though it was rewinding back to the old days, if you like, and it's a concern. It is a concern. I mean, we're framing this conversation at the back of how to improve a winning start, but I think that there is so much room for improvement. I mean, you said last night, I think, what was your quote? There's a 36-storey hotel full of rooms of improvement, and it did feel like that to a certain extent. There's plenty of not so fine tuning needs to go on, really.
Yeah, and I think that, listen, we are talking negatives here. We will get on to positives, and one of the big ones is that we won the game 1-0, top of the group. I just want to talk about, before we get on to the positives, talk about Phil Foden. It's a big talking point, Stuart Pierce, that he didn't play well, stayed on the field for the whole 90 minutes. There were functional things that you could say positively he did for the team, but this was not the Phil Foden who's been the best player in the Premier League this season. Is that down to Phil Foden? Is it down to Gareth Southgate? Are we going to see a situation where maybe Phil is taken out of the starting 11?
Well, listen, from Phil's point of view, he's got a start in the game, and rightly so. I think all of us were pleased to see him get a start. And I said to you pre-game, the ball's in his court, like it is all England players. They'll play their way into the team, they'll play their way out of the team with their form and form alone. I don't think it's a positional thing. He started on the left, but he drifts inside and he gets into a position that he enjoys playing in, to be quite honest with you. I just think yesterday wasn't a game for him. It was crying out for that wide offensive winger type player to go past somebody. But that's not a detriment to Phil. I think sometimes it can be all or nothing, and it's not all or nothing. It never is in football. You know, it's a case of, hang on a minute, the way the game's panned out, we think we should go down another route and quicker rather than later, for me. Phil will come back. I think he'll improve for the game. The manager's given him a big pat on the back, not taking him off the pitch, kept him on the pitch. Harry Kane was probably as less effective as Phil was in an attacking sense. So, and there's another one who played 90 minutes of the game, and that's the nature of football.
So with Phil, do you think you can almost make a case that he's a better player for England against better opposition? That when you're playing in group games, when you're going to have a stack of possession like you're doing, you need to be direct, you need to cut through. For all of his brilliance, and you know, we all really admire him, but maybe a game like that, looking forward, the Denmark game, the Slovenia game, you almost want an Eza, a more conventional left winger playing in that game, and then say Phil for the games where England are going to have less of the ball?
Yeah, that could be the case, Jim, without a doubt. What I would say is this, you know, the game yesterday, in my world, was crying out for two offensive players that could run past someone. If Saka doesn't run past someone with a ball on a dribble, who does in our team that was on the pitch? Well, the answer is nobody, really. You know what I mean? It's not Phil's game. Phil's a passer, a 1-2 merchant. Jude, similar as well, the odd surge, but, you know, he's not a tricky player that can go past people. But it's horses for courses. I think the next game, I think Phil will start again. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the same lineup, give or take Luke Shaw, which we speak about in depth. And then from there, you know, it's down to those players to affect the game. If not, for me, it's quick substitutions. They are the way forward in the modern game. The quicker it comes. If we turn the mirror on Serbia, their manager didn't wait too long. 73 minutes in, he'd made all 5 substitutions. You might say, well, you're better off keeping one up your sleeve, at least. But he'd made all 5 in an attempt to chase the game and change things.
And we didn't make a substitution until halfway through the second half. Listen, England got the win, 1-0. That has to be a huge positive. And there were other positives we could talk about. One player I want to mention, Jim, is Mark Gahey making his first competitive tournament appearance for England, and I thought he looked assured, looked like he'd been there for some time.
Had a really good start, which I'm sure would be important for him because he was the only player in that starting lineup that hadn't played in a tournament before, and he hadn't played too many competitive internationals before. But he looked assured, he read it well. There were a couple of times he stepped forward from the back line and came and intercepted in midfield. I think there was probably only one positional error in the entire 90 minutes where he got caught in possession upfield that could have been dangerous. But he was excellent. We were talking about the potential aerial threat of Mitrovic. He got his head on 2 or 3 crosses that did come in. And when you're talking about positives, a clean sheet is really important, but it wasn't just that. Serbia had a lot of possession in the second half. They had 1 shot on target in 90 minutes. So credit where it's due. Plenty of things going forward that we think can improve. But defensively, that was a really outstanding performance last night. And when you consider Harry Maguire's played, I think it's all but 2 of the competitive internationals in tournaments since Gareth Southgate came in. For someone to step into his shoes, relatively inexperienced at international level, I thought it was a really, really good performance from Gahey. A good, solid 8 out of 10 last night. He should be really proud of himself.
And one of the worries, Stuart, was that defensively England have wobbles. Before the tournament started, we were thinking, a lot of England fans were thinking, defence is the problem. So the clean sheet has got to be a massive positive confidence boost.
I think it's the biggest positive. I think the attacking option of the side of the team we can solve very quickly because we've got enough options within the squad to do that with enough different skill sets. But the defensive side of it, we all of us have gone into the tournament, me especially, worried about that. And whichever way you look at it, even some of the odd sort of balls across the face of the goal, we saw the runners out or got first contact. And I've got to echo what Jim said. I thought Gahey played very, very well, certainly for someone who's stepping on tournament football for the first time.
We did our man of the match at the end of the game. Stuart Pierce voted for Bukayo Saka. He was outvoted. Jim and I both voted for Jude Bellingham. You mentioned Saka already, so let's talk very quickly about Jude Bellingham, how brilliant he was. He's just a world-class footballer. Thank goodness England have got him.
Indeed. I mean, the goal was bravery personified. He was second favourite to get on the end of that. It was incredible. He just threw himself at it, put it in the back of the net. From that moment on, his confidence grew. He emulates just arrogance and confidence as a footballer. The other players, he'll play 1-2s and he'll stop the ball and he'll run onto it, and his body language says, give me the ball. And that is what all footballers on a football pitch should emulate to do, to be quite honest with you. Give me the ball, I'm the best player on the pitch, I'm going to show you I'm the best player on the pitch. And not in a selfish manner, in a team manner, if you like.
We did see the red mist descend briefly once, and that's something that we've talked about before, and he went sort of shoulder to shoulder with Kostic. He had, even by that stage, he'd been fouled 3 or 4 times. He was the most fouled player on the pitch by some distance by the end. But you look at him, you think 30 international caps. He scored in the first goal of the World Cup, scored the winner yesterday. Still only 20. I mean, it is unbelievable. He's the youngest ever European player to have featured in 3 separate major international tournaments. You just think what an immense future he's got. But you have spoken before. If England are going to win this tournament, you feel that it's either got to be Jude or probably Phil Foden that's got to be the player of the tournament. And you know, maybe the groundwork for that was laid in the first part of it yesterday by Jude. It was just, he was excellent. He just plays beyond his years, doesn't he?
Yeah. As I say, it's that arrogance. I saw that arrogance in Paul Gascoigne when he stepped on the pitch for England for the first time, and more importantly, when he stepped on at the World Cup in '90. He had that similar, unshakable confidence in himself and his own ability. I see it exactly mirrored in a slightly different way, obviously, in Jude. You know, he's got that confidence, arrogance. Give me the ball, I'll show you. If things aren't going right, I'll grab the ball by the horns and I'll make sure it goes in our direction. And his goal certainly nudged it in our direction yesterday.
We had a bit of a touch, the three of us, after the game. Shambles getting out of the stadium afterwards. A lot of England fans unhappy. I'm sure you'll hear more about that. It was the same when I was at Munich for Germany, Scotland as well on Friday night in the opening game. Difficult getting away. We actually bumped into somebody, Stuart, one of the local volunteers, who gave us a lift all the way back here. So we were in bed by 1. The rest of the team, unfortunately, who had to pack up, didn't get into bed until about 3 o'clock. We had a proper touch, but that's not acceptable. It's got to improve that side of things.
Certainly has. As I say, we were beholden to the lift we got. It was incredible. On and beyond, picking 3 strange fellas up, and I use that term in the severest possible way. 3 strange fellas, which were absolutely brilliant. Give us a 6-mile lift back to Essen. But the infrastructure and the organisation, something this country is revered for, wasn't in place yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think this Good Samaritan realised she had a former England captain who, in his playing days, didn't really like Germany. I don't think she realised she had him in the... who exactly it was.
I've got nothing against them when they want to give me a lift home, and I'm tired though, Wade.
We are tired, but we're on our way to Leipzig because Jim Proudfoot, what's the next game for us?
Portugal against the Czechs. So Ronaldo taking centre stage again. And you look at the potential winners that we've seen in this tournament so far. I think Germany played really well in parts. Excellent first half performance from Italy. Be interesting to see what Portugal have got, because a lot of people think that they've got the depth in the squad to be able to do something special here, and they've got quite a favourable draw. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. But speaking to a few Portuguese fans, they don't want Ronaldo in the starting lineup. They think there are better options now elsewhere and a better balance when he doesn't play. So that's going to be interesting. But they ought to get off to a winning start, you would imagine. That's our game. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff in Leipzig tomorrow night, Tuesday night.
Looking forward to it already. Jim, Stuart, thank you very much. We'll see you next time.